Welcome to Built for the Stage podcast. This is Joe Roscoe, founder and host of Built for the Stage, Broadway's #1 fitness platform with clients in over 20 Broadway shows, the West End in London, Australia, Tokyo Disney, collegiate theaters across the country. You name it, we got clients everywhere. We're your one-stop shop for all things theater and fitness. So if you want to try a free trial, go to builtforthestage.com and you can work alongside of me as your coach on an interactive fitness app, builtforthestage.com. Special thanks to our producing team, Broadway Podcast Network. You can check them out at bpn.fm. All right, let's get on to our special guest. Special guest as always. I ran across their content, I think first on YouTube, probably in the pandemic days. God rest its soul. May it never return. And then they were just taking social media by storm as well and just interviewing casual people like Martha Stewart and Adina Menzel, all these people. And I just had to reach out because I really respect what they've done with their page, their brand. I also ran into them maybe about has it been a year ago on a sidewalk after a show once, and we got to meet in person for the first time, and they were just as lovely in person as they seemed in all of their content. So I was like, I got to have them on the show. So please welcome to the show a Broadway journalist, Broadway personality. You've seen them on many a carpets and many of YouTube vlogs and all that. They go by, like any other important person does, like Beyonce, Usher, etc. Please welcome to the show from bwaySHO. Yeah. Hello, show. Welcome to Built for the Stage podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. What an introduction.
Yeah, it's the best one you've ever gotten, right?
I really enjoyed that.
If you ever need a hype man, just call me up. I'll be there on the ones and twos to give you the best intro out there. So, yeah, but I meant all that sincerely. Big fan, and such a fan of your work that usually I've done over 200 episodes, and I've done the intro that many times. Obviously, and it's whatever, can do it in my sleep. But I don't know, your presence brought some type of anxious energy, like, oh, I can't mess up in front of show. Like, she's so good. Like, I gotta nail this. I gotta nail it.
Well, you nailed it. I was very impressed. Thank you so much.
Okay, I can't wait for these puns to be dropped throughout this. So, yeah, I actually got to work with Chris Catelli recently. We're working together, and I was watching one of your vlogs. You're interviewing him about, I think, Schmigadoon, yeah. And he dropped one of your show puns very nicely. I was a big fan of that, so that was great. But before we get started, I wanted to play this video of you, just a little snippet, because it gives a great backstory of, I don't know, just like the origin story of this journey and really something I wanted to dive into. So let me pop this up, me and my big tech team here, aka myself. So far, so good. All right, here we go. Let's see what we can do.
I never could have imagined I'd already be covering opening nights on Broadway within the first year of creating bwaySHO. It just goes to show how years of hard work and preparation pay off in unimaginable ways. This year, I also enrolled in the Freestyle Love Supreme Academy, because isn't live reporting just freestyling by another name? My passion for Broadway that made me leave my on-air reporting job in Texas and move back to the greatest city in the world. You see, before I even had a bwaySHO Showtreon Patreon page, just like the Sons of Liberty, I've got my trusty sidekicks by my side.
Okay, so I wanted to add us back to the stage here. I wanted to show that part because not only did I look up to you because you were brave enough to just take the leap of starting this and putting yourself out there, but you were in Texas, you were doing a whole other thing, and then you were like, you know what? I'm following my passion. I'm moving. I think you said back to New York, so maybe you're from there. I can't wait to get that backstory. So walk us through how did bwaySHO come about?
Yeah, And that was such a walk down memory lane, making that video, looking at all those 2019 red carpets. That was wonderful. So thank you very, very much for for that wild experience. So I am from New York originally. It's wonderful here. I grew up a theater kid, going to Broadway shows, bwaySHO Broadway shows. Uh, so like 13, Newsies, Legally Blonde, Spring Awakening, like that, Hairspray, that is what I grew up on. So I lived in Westchester and Edgemont, or as like Jonathan Larson would talk about, the Scarsdale Jewish Community Center. And then I went to University of Maryland, go Terrapins, and I studied broadcast journalism. And then as a journalist who wants to be on television, they say, you know, you're going to have to go to a small town, and whoever kind of like gives you that first invite, you just go with it. And I knew I wanted to go somewhere warm. And so when West Texas called, I was like, I guess that's where I'm going. So I know it's wild.
AKA
So
a different country.
literally.
Texas is its own country in itself, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
it is.
so New York Broadway girl goes down to West Texas. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So before I was a theater reporter, I was a news and sports reporter. So I covered, like, I was the Big Spring beat reporter, but I also did the game of the week, and I did Friday Night Lights. So I think this is especially interesting for like Built for the Stage because of all the sports and athletics of it all. So like if you know Friday Night Lights, like the book and the TV show and all that, I was like in the thick of it. I
Oh
would
shit.
like travel to different small towns in West Texas. I lived in Odessa. I went to the Odessa Permian game. Like it was wild. I learned so much about.
For everyone listening, sorry to interrupt. Friday
Yeah.
Night Lights, she's talking about high school football on Fridays, which is the equivalent of Broadway in New York City. It is the most important. It's more important than professional football. High school football on Fridays in Texas is crazy. So there's a lot of pressure on SHO as her first gig covering this, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you jumping in for that because it was wild. It is like the way that some of the parents would, like, it was like things were closed across Odessa and like everyone was there. And it was amazing. It was like such a wild experience. And I would film the game, the first half basically on like my professional video camera. And then at halftime, I'm like trying to in real time go back to sports talk. So I was going to be like at intermission.
Right.
At halftime, I'd run up to, there was like a press booth or a press box, and then I'd edit together the highlights. Then I'd watch the second half of the game, and then I would go live on the field with the winning team.
Got it.
So it was like
Okay.
a very high pressure but exhilarating experience to be on that field. I love sports. I love, like, it was almost easier to go live than it was to do like a filmed report because it's like the adrenaline of it all. It's like a Broadway show, right? Like it is live no matter what. When 11 p.m. hits, like no matter how prepared you are, the show must go on.
Yeah. Okay, so that you were already getting prepared for your red carpet and other interviews that you're doing at these awards or opening nights. So, when you're down there, how long are you down there, and what makes you take your return to New York?
That is a fantastic question. So I was there from 2017 to 2019. Wild years to be in West Texas. I did make some very wonderful friends though, so I will say that, and they treated me with such incredible hospitality. And I also just have to say, like, if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know if bwaySHO would exist in the way it does today, right? Like being an on-camera reporter, doing all the like producing, filming, editing, writing, on camera work, like you are basically a one woman show out there with the support of your colleagues. But like when I was doing those reports, sometimes I wouldn't even have like a videographer. It was like just me setting up the shot with a producer in my ear. Like, it was a wild experience. And so when my contract was up, they asked if I wanted to renew it. And I was like, thank you so much. No, I don't. Um, and I was driving one day from Odessa to Big Spring, and I just had an epiphany about becoming like, I was like, I'd been listening to a lot of Broadway podcasts. I've always been such a theater girly. And I was like, there's no one really doing this specific niche of like a professional journalist who is also just like a mega fan who grew up in theater and like wants to represent like the fans of Broadway, but in a professional journalist environment. And so it was really exciting. I just kind of like, I drove back from Texas to New York. I sold my car and I lived off of that in 2019. It was a
Love it.
wild experience. I don't think I'd do it in any other way. I mean, like, extra funding would have been great, but like with any show, I feel like it kind of had that like starting at the fringe vibe, right? Like, we are just like, I knew I could do it because I'd basically been doing that for 2 years, but in a different way. And people would always ask my opinion for like, hey, I'm going to New York. What Broadway show should I see? And it was like, it was so baked in. And one thing I almost forgot to even mention. So I had this morning segment where I would drop 2 theater references every morning. And like, no one ever realized it or recognized it. It was like so wild. And these are things I'm writing at like 2:30 in the morning, but I was so committed to the bit. So it would be, and I'd write it in so it would sound like, oh, that's a weird way of saying that sentence, but it, you know, it like still worked. So it'd be like, for the election of 2018, when you rise up, make sure you bring your donations to, you know, the Salvation Army. Like, it was like small little things. But it was like my little way of like staying true to my weird theater puns and stuff. And that is just like who I am as a person. And so I love that, like, doing that on television definitely helped for this like bwaySHO creation of my pun world.
Very cool. Okay, so once you get here in 2019, to go through this adventure, do you have a full out business plan from A to Z? Do you know exactly where this thing's going, or do you just start putting one foot in front of the other and it's just evolved to what it's evolved into right now?
Just like one of my favorite musicals in 13, we put one foot in front of the other and just keep walking on. Thank you for that little setup. That was great.
Yay! The crowd goes wild. Amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Okay. Yeah. So
I
so you just start. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that beginning journey, and then if there was any like click moments where you're like, oh, what if XYZ, or oh, I just met this person. This door might be open. I'm gonna run through it.
totally. I think it was all like, I knew that if I showed up, I could make it work. I know, we love it. So it was kind of chaos, which is kind of like how my life is. So it was January of 2019, and I remember that it was Broadway Con. And so I was like, this is a great place for me to just start filming, to start introducing myself. Like, it was crazy. I would send out like a lot of emails to people, but I just kind of like kept going to things. So I'd go to like Broadway Bakes, and then Broadway Under the Stars, and Broadway in Bryant Park, and there are so many free Broadway things. And I decided early on that my mission was to make theater more accessible. And so that's both in accessing Broadway because it can be really expensive, accessing Broadway on YouTube because you live in Brazil and you want to like see a clip from a show, and accessible. Like, I have fibromyalgia. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a bad back. And so sometimes like Broadway theaters aren't physically accessible for people, not even just in the audience, but on stage. And of course, with like Jenna Bainbridge from Sus and now Wicked, we're hearing a lot. We're making some really big strides in Broadway, but it's like, why did it take so long? And like, I'm thinking of Ali Stroker a few years ago. Like, it is so important to be looking at theater in the bigger picture. And I'm just like fascinated with theater and people's ability to do this 8 times a week. And so I just like put myself out there. And then early on, I made some friends. I don't remember how I got connected to this group, but there was like a group of theater professionals from all over the industry who would meet like every other Monday. I'm still friends with some of them today, which is like pretty cool thinking back to that. Brian Campione, who works at Playbill now, like we met at this thing. And so there would be like an ask and an offer. And I was like, my dream is to cover Broadway opening nights. Like I have my own equipment. I know how to do all this. I can make like a video package. And theaterpizzazz.com was looking for a new person. And so I jumped on board, and I remember I did a waitress press day with Shoshana Bean and Jeremy Jordan. This was like pretty early on. And then my first opening night was Be More Chill, which was amazing. And I had met Joe Iconis at this Guggenheim event, and he remembered my name. And I remember thinking how special that was. Like, the person who created this Broadway musical that's about to open remembered my name from this small event 2 weeks ago. Like, it was a very meaningful start to this journey. So I'll always hold like Be More Chill and Theater Pizzazz in like a very special place of my heart, because they're the ones that believed in me. Then we will fast forward a little bit.
Can we pause there? I'd love to pause about Theater Pizzazz. Yeah.
Yeah.
So listening, you might just, if you're listening out there, thank you for listening, by the way. You might just be like, oh, how lucky that just landed in Sho's lap. But the reality is that she said something a little bit earlier, which is the important part, which is that she just kept putting herself out there. And that is so easy, but so difficult. And for those of you that are like, oh, I just want to do the thing, I want to do something, you have to put yourself out there. It doesn't come naturally for everyone. There are things that you can do to work through it. But I wanted to zoom in and ask you about that show. Has that just been ingrained in you since a child, or does it take a lot for you to put yourself out there? Like, how was that process for you of like, oh, I'm just going to talk to anyone and anywhere, anytime, I'm going to do it? Or did you have to struggle through it? Yeah. Tell us about what that meant for you to put yourself out there.
Joe, I have to say, as an interviewer, I'm very impressed right now. Great job. Well done. That was really wonderful to like pause. I was just like, because I was like, oh, my origin story. I just got to like barrel through this. And you were like, wait. I have a question. So well done. First of all, congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I'd say it's a combo. Like, I've always felt pretty comfortable speaking to people, public speaking, like both in just like everyday, and then also like studying broadcast journalism. Like, there are some people who like, oh, I'm going to go into print, or I'm going to go into magazine or radio. Like, going into TV kind of made sense for me because I love talking to people and I feel very comfortable on camera, which are two things that I think you're kind of either like comfortable with or you have to really work on. Like, those were always just pretty like natural for me. That being said, it is still very scary to put yourself out there in a new environment where, you know, especially as a woman, where you're kind of told like to just let, you know, like, don't make a big deal or don't be too loud. Like, I am a very loud person and I'm a very colorful person. So it does take maybe some extra like encouragement within myself sometimes to be like, okay, Sho, like, you can do this. And like, once I give myself that little pep talk, then I'm fine. But I think it is important for people to know that even people like me who are extreme extroverts, like, it is still scary to put yourself out there in an unknown. I mean, some could say that you're going into the unknown.
Into the unknown.
Literally, as I like posted my Redwood video today, I was like, ha, I'm going to make so many Idina Menzel, Wicked, Frozen, Rent references. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it is interesting how both are true, right? Like, I am very comfortable speaking with people. Like today for our conversation, I was like, I'm going to make some Earl Grey tea and then I'm going to hop onto this call, right? Like I didn't have to really emotionally prep for like an interview. I was like, I feel pretty confident that we're going to have a great rapport and I don't have to like stress about it.
Yeah.
But like when I get ready for an opening night, I am like, I have kind of like a routine. And I know that is like going into the future a little bit from this conversation. But I think it's important to note that even people who are very comfortable putting themselves out there, like there's different levels of putting yourself out there. And like rejection's hard for anyone. So whether
Yeah.
it's like you're rejected from a show that you're auditioning for, you're rejected from a carpet, you're rejected from press tickets, like there are even things that are really small in the grand scheme of things, like it can get to you. So it's important to like have that foundation of like friendship. And like a lot of my friends are like, I know that this is like they see me putting myself out there and they see the like wins and the losses, and they've been really helpful on this journey.
I feel like we can spend a whole hour on we could do like a workshop with SHO on how to put yourself out there, because it's not just about bravery. There is a craft or an art to it, if you will, or a best practice of doing it, because you could just come across, I don't know, awkward, abrasive, too much, whatever it might be, and then you strike out and then you're like, this putting yourself out there thing really doesn't work, when in fact it does. But maybe you're just maybe there's a part 2 with SHO, and we talk about that. All right, let's let you continue on with, you get this gig with Theater Pizzazz. Okay, Theater Pizzazz, and then you get to cover Be More Chill.
Yep.
Okay, Be More Chill, and then now we're back. Here we go.
Excellent. So that was a great first chapter. I will always be grateful to Sandy Durrell for making this happen. This is someone with her passion project. She didn't have a lot of funding, and there was like a lot of freedom and creativity. But as someone who wanted to do this full time, it really wasn't like a full-time job. And I didn't get like the creative, I didn't get to like keep all of my videos like just for myself. So I was like, This chapter is done. I'm so grateful for it. And I was introduced somehow to New York Theater Guide, and they were also looking for an opening night person with their own stuff. So I started doing opening nights for them, either on camera or behind the scenes, doing the camera work and the editing, which was also wonderful. And I got to do so many opening nights and experiences like the Tony Awards in 2019. That was a really, really special experience for me, being on camera. And they had the rainbow flowers, which like for my little queer heart was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I was
that was a
happy.
Great design that year. That was a great design.
Great design. And it was like the year of Hadestown, who like, I love Hadestown. I love Beetlejuice. Like it was a really strong year personally of like musicals that I loved and people who I'd connected with, like Alex Brightman, I will always be grateful for, who like remembered me from Broadway Bakes. And then we did an interview at Broadway in Bryant Park, and my like Broadway in Bryant Park Beetlejuice videos blew up. I mean, that was like almost a real start to bwaySHO. It now
those Beetlejuice fans were crazy.
Like, I love them so much.
That was a serendipitous moment for you, because if you were going to connect with any lead in any show that had a huge like fanatical following, it was that show. They did not mess around.
No, I have a video with like all of the Beetlejuice videos and my interview with Alex Brightman that has like 2 million views on YouTube right now, which is wild. And then like a second video, I think it's the Say My Name video with Alex Brightman and Sophia Ann Caruso, which has 1 million views. Like it was one of those things where like there was clearly an interest for Beetlejuice and fans, and like Alex Brightman gave so much of his time to the fans, and I feel like we connected on that like pure just like love of theater, grateful for being here, how can we give back way. And he was always so nice, and we love committing to the bit. And so that kind of just started. And then it was like, I don't know exactly time wise, but let's say maybe like a year later, I was like, this is a really wonderful experience. Thank you for all the opening nights. Thank you for the introductions. But I just like believed in myself so much that I was like, if I'm gonna not be making like a full-time salary doing this, I want to at least be able to say I did it my way and do it. And so I said, like, thank you so much. I'm gonna go solo. And so that's when like it went from like bwaySHO for other companies to like bwaySHO on the red carpet. And like there were a lot of rejections early on, especially, right? Like, and I'm still dealing with that stuff, right? Like I'm not afraid to talk about it, but I think it was a really important moment of like, if I moved back to New York to pursue this, I really want to like believe in my vision. I don't want like, the news director to like tell me how to do it. I was like, I really want to like feel out how to do it. And I think early on I was doing a lot more of that same journalism style videos of like a video package, like a reel that I would do for like the 6 p.m. news. And that was wonderful. And I loved doing it, but it kind of like, it felt very like for television, which is great. But I realized later on that like, I just love talking with people. Like this is so true. I always just wanted to like Hamilton and burr it up. Like I just wanted to be in the room where it happens.
I
I
love that.
knew,
I love that.
right? Like I
That's
knew I
that's
wasn't.
that's the title of your memoir, maybe something like that.
It could be. I would talk to Lynn about that. I think he'd be okay with
Well,
it.
yeah. Got to run it by it, but yeah.
Gotta run it by him. But I knew that like from the early days of like, I knew I wasn't going to be an Olympic athlete. So how could I get to cover the Olympics? Oh, I'm going to volunteer and be like a sports journalist. That is true. I like volunteered at the Rio 2016 Olympics and I went like,
Amazing.
yeah. So like I've always believed that like, okay, maybe I can't be dream number one of like being in the Olympics or being on Broadway. That's maybe a little out of reach and that's fine. So how can I still find myself in those rooms and talking to the people? Oh, I'll be a journalist. I love talking to people. So that's like the avenue Q that I found.
Yes, that is the avenue Q that you found. I love that for you. Okay, so the rejection, I wanted to zoom in. I wanted to take another break on the rejection part because that, I think, to me as an entrepreneur or as a creator or an artist, a performer, I think the willingness to be rejected and the resilience to keep moving forward through it is maybe the single-handedly most important thing that there is to this, because I don't know, people get rejected, they quit, and then it's over. And what could have been never is or never was. So yeah, talk us through, I don't know, are there any huge memories or like big time like moments where you're like, wow, that one really stung, or wow, it made me question, what am I doing?
So many. I'm like, which one would I even I think the most important thing to say is like, I get a lot of messages, which I'm very grateful for, being like, oh my God, you have my dream job. How can I do it? And like, I'm so happy to share my journey, but like, I had a very specific journey of like, I studied broadcast journalism. I then flew across the country to be an on-air reporter. And then I like followed my passion and did this. Like, I think a lot of people think that I just like woke up one day and was like, I love Broadway and I'm going to do interviews, which is great if that's your journey and like more power to you. But I don't want it to sound like I think because I have a very like bubbly personality that it can almost, I'm like, one thing that has been really tough is that it feels sometimes like it's less professional because it's like so high energy, but it's like, that's just me being me. And I really want to show up as my authentic self. Like that is just like who I am as a person. And so I know how to do the like on air, giving the facts, giving the, like, I know how to do that. And I'll do it for like a more serious topic, but I want to relate to the people at home. I want to relate to the person I'm interviewing. And I want like on a red carpet for the actors to have a fun time. And so that's kind of why I've been doing all that. All that to say, back to your actual question, is like, it it took me, and it's still taking me, like, up until this day, of figuring out, like, what is my bwaySHO voice, and how am I going to present that person and that voice forward while still being true to myself, being true to my mission and my vision, and accepting that that means that I'm going to get some rejections, right? Like, I used to cover a lot of musicals and plays, and now I mostly cover musicals because I'm such a musical person. And I think that makes sense, right? Like, it is a bummer to not get some of the plays, but I would rather get more of the musical. Like, if they're like,
Yeah.
well, she's more of like a happy musical person. Like, I remember when I sent an email for Shucked, and I was like, this is corny. There are puns. Please, like, I must be on this carpet. And then I got on the carpet and I was like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Like, that one was one of those, like, I know in my soul that I am
Yeah.
the right person to be on this carpet.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
that felt amazing. And, like, on the flip side of things, like, I was recently invited to cover the Othello opening night, and that felt like a major win. I could have seen myself not getting invited to that because of, like, it's a more intense, it's a dark show, there's, like, some really big stars, or sometimes I'll do interviews and sometimes I'll do photos and videos, and, like, I obviously, my number one is always to do interviews, but sometimes I'll do photos. And so I was like, I, like, remember feeling really grateful, like, when I got that email being like, you can do interviews for the Othello carpet. I was like, ooh, maybe I am being seen as someone back who, like, can be, like, happy and fun, but also, like, knows how to feel out the carpet. And there were, like, a lot of big celebrities, but then, like, I'm not covering Good Night and Good Luck in 2 days. And so, like, Eve, I like to be very open and honest that, like, I am so grateful for the opportunities that I've had and I continue to have. And it is still a struggle. Like, having,
Yeah.
like, a major win like Othello and then feeling like bummed that I'm not going to be at Good Night and Good Luck. I'm dealing with both of those and I have to just keep pushing up.
Yeah. If I could personally just give the opinion of, if you weren't who you were, though, and choosing to be that relatable voice of the fans that gets to almost be like the representative of all of us that gets to talk, you might have never gotten Othello either. Like, you put yourself in that position as, hey, I'm going to really embrace this niche, if you will, and that's made you out to be who you are. And if you were just being, I don't know, the neutral journalist, everyday TV personality person, you might not have had the George Clooney show or Othello. So
Right.
yeah, and I think that's an important thing to note with everyone is, like, if you try to serve everyone, you'll serve no one. Or if you try, it really goes back to, they say, if you try to please everyone, you won't please anyone. But, like, you can't serve two masters. Like, you got to choose your avenue Q, like Show said, and just stick to that path and go with it. So I love that.
And Joe, if I may, like, add one thing to that, because the Othello carpet, I really was like, okay, like, I'll chat with the cast. I knew that we weren't chatting with Denzel or Jake. Like, they had said in the email that no one's going to interview them. They're going to, like, in-house just send it out. And I was like, great. I felt like almost no pressure, right? I was like, I've already spoken with a lot of these cast members. Some of them are my friends. Like, and any VIPs outside of the cast that I get, great. Like, I felt I was there with my friend Ryan. We were like, we are going to have so much fun. We are going to get some great coverage. This is going to be a great night. We went in, like, with a very positive attitude. And one of the best moments, besides from, like, interviewing Martha Stewart, which was
I got to hear about it.
Yeah, we will, like, take a quick note with that. And so Jennifer Nettles comes by, and as, like, a long-term Sarah Bareilles waitress Jennifer Nettles fan, I've been wanting to ask Sarah and Jennifer about this musical that they wrote or started writing years ago called Lesbians.
Right.
And this is one of those journalistic moments that has been in the back of my brain every time I've seen both of them. And also, sometimes you're interviewing someone about something very specific, like Waitress, when I was, like, at the Tribeca Film Festival, and I wanted to really focus Sarah's interview on Waitress. I thought that would be respectful, but it has been in the back pocket for years and years. And the fact that I got to like ask Jennifer Nettles at the Othello opening night about it, and she was delighted. And then like
Yeah.
the response from the fans has been amazing. That was like, yes, I belong here. I deserve to be on these carpets. Like I'm asking real journalistic niche questions that
Right.
they want to talk about. So that felt like a major win.
Yeah, it's always great when you get like that raised eyebrow reaction of like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna ask me like, what's it feel like to be in the audience tonight?" But you just pulled out something that you did your homework, obviously, or you know, it's always great to have someone be surprised with the knowledge you're bringing to the question. So that was kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, I want to jump into some other shows that are going on right now in this year's Tony season.
Yes.
Maybe you can make this almost a segment too. Show stopping moments
Yes.
that you might have seen this season. Were there any musicals that you're in the audience and there was a number or some type of moment where you were like jaw dropped, holy shit, what's going on right now?
Whoa. I feel like so many.
So many, right? Yeah, right. So many. Yeah, that's going to be another question of like, this is one of the most, I feel like, stacked seasons we've had in a good bit.
Yes. These are like my off the dome, just like quick thoughts.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is, I've had the pleasure of seeing Maybe Happy Ending twice. And the first time I was like, oh yeah, I really like this. Like I saw it right around opening, and I saw it a second time on like this fan night. And I was like, this musical has moved me so deeply. Like I love Helen J. Shen. I love Darren Criss, and I love that whole company and creative team. And there was something about being in a room full of fans, seeing this show for a special night that felt like such a warm hug. And I was very grateful that day. Like my friend had offered me a ticket. Shout out to Andrew. And that felt like a very like, oh, does this mean I'm an insider in this? You know, like that was really cool. And on the same token, like seeing Smash first preview was like, oh my God, theater kids galore. We were all
Yeah.
just like happy little theater kids. Like it almost didn't even matter what we were about to see. It just mattered that we were there, that we got the references, and getting to see people that I've gotten to know over the years, like Krista Rodriguez and Caroline Bowman and Miss Robin Herder, Tony nominee, like
Her Highness.
amazing, iconic. And then like something that happened yesterday, 2 days ago, I was on a red carpet for Maestra Amplify on Monday night, and Krista Rodriguez, like on her way to Smash, pokes over and like looks over at me and goes, hi show. And I was like, hi, and runs over, and I was like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
that, like to me, like it was such an exciting moment that was like so small and yet so big.
Mm-hmm. For the Smash fans out there from the TV series back in the day, circa, I don't know, 2012 or whenever that was, it's different, I hear, and they didn't try to like recreate it from its like a exact twin up there. They try to make it its own, I've heard.
Yeah.
Do you leave the theater saying like, I don't know, it honored the series per se, but yet it was its own thing and you still liked it even though you're a true Smash fan from its origin?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm so intrigued to see how they are going to continue evolving it throughout previews, because once again, first preview, this was one of those shows that I was like, I have a feeling like the first preview to opening night journey is going to be very theater-esque, right? Like there's going to be a lot of changes. But seeing some of those numbers that I loved growing up, like watching on TV in real life with some of my favorite actors, was amazing, right? There were standing ovations galore. There was glitz, there was glam, there was the Deborah Messing scarf. You know, we had it all.
Yeah. Okay, so there were mid show standing ovations in songs that you saw?
Yeah.
This is like this. You got Sunset Boulevard. It's happening. Gypsy. It's happening. It's happening in Smash now. Am I missing any? I feel like.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I feel like if
wait.
Sarah,
Real women have
yes.
curves. I feel like Tatiana, yeah, I think I saw that she got mid show
I
standing
love
O, I
that.
think.
I'm so
I'm pretty
excited to see that one.
I have okay, so I see that and Smash and Boop the weekend of the Tonys in June. And
Awesome.
then this weekend I'm seeing Buena Vista, I'm seeing Floyd Collins, and I'm seeing Friday, Saturday. Oh, I'm seeing Old Friends. One of
Oh,
my
I'm I'm seeing old friends tonight.
oh, amazing. Okay, one of my clients since he's OG 2018, 2019, Jacob Dickey is just like
Yes.
casually singing with Bernadette and Leia up there, like no big deal.
No big
He's
deal.
just, I don't know, making a story for the rest of his life that he could tell.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
we're working on so I have this new YouTube series. It's called Show Me,
Okay.
SHO-Me.
Of course.
It's a new playlist that I just uploaded the Redwood one today. I have to send a song to my editor for Old Friends, and then that's going to go up this week as well. But I'm thinking of when I did the interviews for the Old Friends press day, it's like there are things in life that just fill you up, right? That fill your cup. And those, like, I mean, first of all, anytime I get to interview Bernadette Peters, it's just like a check mark in my life. And then you add Leia Salonga and you're like, okay. And then you add all these like other people like Daniel, and like it was such a fulfilling day. And throughout these like 6 years now, I guess, of creating bwaySHO, I've always felt like there was something missing of like, I'm doing all these interviews, but I'm uploading clips, and I'm like, I've still been trying to figure out like, is this a vlog? Is this a podcast? Like, how am I going to do this? And then my friend Becky Tradesman, who's a Broadway associate producer, AP, I don't know. Oh my God. Some of these terms in theater, there's too many terms.
Sure.
But she was like, I believe in this vision you have. And so we're like now taking all these interviews either from a red carpet or from a press day and making like a whole vlog style behind the scenes of the day in the life of bwaySHO, doing these red carpets and like the little outtakes, the little bloopers, and like thinking about how I'm going to see old friends. And now people are going to get to see our interactions from the press day and then again for opening night. Like that to me, like I'm getting so excited because when you have a vision, and this goes back to like one of your first questions, right? Like, did you know what the vision was, or did you just kind of like go for it? Like, I just knew I wanted to do theater interviews. I didn't know, and I had a feeling like that YouTube would kind of be the platform, and that was all that I had. That's all I came in.
Yeah.
And now that I have this deeper vision, working with a producer, working with an editor, like, and this is something that can keep growing and maybe
Very
be like
cool.
a sit down interview series. That would be great too. It just feels like it's all happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to keep again putting one foot in front of the other. You have, it has to have changed. It has to have evolved because social media and the way technology is evolving by the second, we have no choice but to like pivot.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't pivot, then you're just I don't know, blockbuster and you're gone. Bye. Like
Yeah.
you didn't evolve. Okay, well, please let us know when all this can be found and watched and listened to, and I'm excited to see what might come of that. All right. Did you see Death Becomes Her yet?
Yes. Oh my God.
I feel like the writing of that
gays.
show, I feel like the writing of that show you're just probably obsessed with, right? Because I was. It was just like it kind of was it wasn't shucked, but it had that same like, yo, zingers are just one after the other. Like this, it was like if you're just listening, you can't see my jazz hands, but it was like musical theater, like at its core, you know. It gave me like when I saw Some Like It Hot a few years ago, it gave me that where it's like this is musical theater, like this is it.
Yeah, Death Becomes Her really is such like an insider's view of theater, and especially for the gays, which is a song in it. Like, I was smiling so wide because it was so well written. It was so well sung. It was like such a theatrical. There are so many quick changes. It was so vibrant. The ensemble gets to shine. Like it really felt like, and some of the moves that they were doing were so athletic. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
ensemble member swings, understudies, they are heroes.
Yeah.
I'm forever in
That
love.
ensemble is stacked.
Yeah.
They have the who's who of ensemble members in that
Yes.
cast for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like those leading the front lines, oh my God, like the connection with each other. I mean, I'm just thinking like Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard are like our like Avengers Endgame, right? Like the fact that they are two comedy musical theater legends who are so funny but have voices that'll kill you. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And then
Show.
Destiny's
You
Child.
said Robin Herder. You said Robin Herder.
Megan Hilty.
Sorry, Megan Hilty.
That's
And Robin Herder from Smash. I have their all Audra. I have them all in my Nicole. Who is going to win leading actress this year? Like who how are you gonna do it? You can't it's gotta be a tie. It's gotta be just everyone nominated wins pretty much.
I love them all. I can't even tell you. I don't know. I'm thinking back to when like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey all were nominated and they went up on stage and they held hands like a pageant. That's what I want from this year's leading women in Broadway.
I have the chills right like that. It's gotta be that. It's too epic. Okay. You won't answer, I know, but
won't.
Who's gonna win?
I appreciate the effort, but I mean, I think it can go in so many different ways. I will say, like, every performance I've seen, I'm just blown away.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I had to interrupt with that, but
no, that's so fair. I also don't know if I said Robin Herder instead of Megan Hilty in Death Becomes Her, because Megan Hilty was, of course, in Smash, where Robin Herder is now playing her character.
Right.
And so now I don't know. We'll have to rewind.
We're in the musical theater Matrix right now.
Yes.
What's the Leonardo DiCaprio movie where there's like 4 layers? What was that one called? You know what I'm talking about? Oh shoot. Someone drop it in the comments once you listen. Anyways, all right. So I want to wrap up with just a couple of fun things that I wanted to know about you in your theater experience. You've been to a lot of shows, right?
So many.
Have you ever been late to a show and had to have been seated late to the show?
I feel like this was a really targeted question because I have no concept of time. So thank you so much, Joe. Yes.
It wasn't at all. It was a random shot in the dark. And the reason, I wanted you to say yes because I want your strategy, because I feel like yes, the ushers have their protocol to follow, but I feel like you're so savvy and have seen so many shows, like myself. I think we are a qualified usher for sure.
Totally.
What is your stance on like how to best get your ass in that seat without ruining the experience for everyone? Like what's your strategy here?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. So I am like famously not good at time. And also I'm really desperately trying to get better at that. If anyone has suggestions, please message me. I would love to get better at that. I think my biggest thing, like I really desperately try, like even if I'm going to be like later than I'd like, it's like, how can I make sure to get there before the lights go down? Well, at Redwood, instead of like the 7-minute Broadway rule, like, you know, how they start 7 minutes late, they started like 3 or 4 minutes. Like, so it was like 7:04. And I like sprinted there. I goofed. We were having a roommate dinner and I was like, I've got a few more minutes. Cause now that I live in Hell's Kitchen, you know, you think like, oh, this is going to take 10 minutes, but it takes 15. So I sprint there. I'm like out of breath and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, it's okay. The show started. You'll just hang in the back. And I was like, the show started. Like, I mean, it is like 7:03, right? Like, I was like frustrated, but I like sprinted to make sure I wouldn't be late. And so at first I was like, oh my God. But the Nederlander, I was in the back. This was the first time I saw it. I've now actually seen it 3 times. So like I've now filled in the blanks. But they had me stand in the back, and then I apologized to the ushers, and they were like, no worries. And then what I did was like I made sure that my like jacket was in my bag and my playbill was like away, so that like they were like, okay, in 1 minute, we're going to run down during the applause. You go in, you just like cut to your seat. Luckily, I was on the aisle. Thank goodness. Like I didn't have to like go through people, but I was like, once I get to my seat, how can I not be a nuisance? Cause that is like, I always feel so bad if I'm like taking out a mint. Actually, a good note. It's a really great time. If you're like cheering people on, you can cheer with your voice, and then you can unwrap your like throat lozenge or your mint.
You took one of my next question. My next question was going to be, what's your favorite snacks and drinks, if you have any, when you go see the show? And what's your strategy on opening and yada, yada, yada? Because these are like, you go to the shows a lot, and you experience like, I love that there's people and excitement around me, but there's times when I could just watch this myself, so I'm not disrupted by all these random ass people doing stupid stuff.
So
okay,
true.
so yes, everyone, unwrap your shit during applause. Just use your just scream and say woo, and open that M&M bag. Just get it over. The slower you do it, we still hear you. It's worse. Just get it over with.
I will never forget this. Oh my God. I was at a play. It was a matinee. I will not like call out who this person was, but we were like, it was a press day. Like they had or like a press seating. It was like a, regular matinee, but I had press tickets, and somebody was like unwrapping their chips and like opening, and like chips are so loud. Like you gotta be conscious of what you're eating. And this was like a quiet play. And I swear they're just like reaching into the chip bag, rustling. And then like, and we are all looking at each other like, this has got to be a joke, right? Like it was so loud. Like there's no way you don't know that like everyone can hear you. And that moment, and then like you thought it was done, and then they're unwrapping their candy, and you're like, who are you? It was insane. So my things are, I always have either throat lozenges or mints, because I talk a lot and I lose my voice a lot, as you know from the last time we were supposed to do this, and I just like lost my voice. I'm getting better at it. I've gone to like vocal coaches.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. Cher's from Merrily We Roll Along. I went to her place. She's amazing. If you need a recommendation, she does it in person or virtual. Big fan.
Cool. Shout out.
Shout out. I'm so excited for Merrily. Actually, Merrily We Roll Along off Broadway, I got a solo press ticket for it. That was one of the best theater experiences of my life. Genuinely.
Why? Tell us.
It felt like I was really respected as a journalist to get a ticket to this sold out phenomena. Like I'm sure they had a very select few number of tickets. And the fact that I had like done a lot of off Broadway and smaller galas for them, the press team, and they were like, yes, we can give you a press ticket, felt really special. So I like deeply appreciated it, and like honored that it wasn't that like, I don't expect to get everything, but I really appreciate when I do. And then when I sat there, I mean, New York Theater Workshop is so small and intimate. And to get to see those stars and this ensemble so close, and you could tell how special it was. Like before Broadway, before even like the big reviews, it was just one of those moments that you were seeing history. You were seeing magic. Like, I don't care how famous someone is. It was like the passion and talent of seeing, Jonathan, Dan, and Lindsay's chemistry as a trio was so remarkable, and you could tell that they were friends. And like then seeing some of my friends taking that stage with them and being like, they are just as good, they are holding their own. And this felt like a full company of Merrily We Roll Along, that like seeing it on Broadway was amazing. Getting to see first preview and the final show were things I'll never forget, but seeing it off Broadway was like peak theater experience.
Love it. All right, SHO. I'd love to speak for another hour, but we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much for being on the show. Yeah. We need to do maybe a part 2 on putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I'm
And
down.
I also feel like you shared your story so well in this that you could just take the audio recording of this, enter it into Chat GBT, and you could already start your memoir of in the room where it happened. So yeah, that's a possibility. Okay, Show, thanks so much. And yeah, hopefully I can see you in person again soon. Please don't be a stranger. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. Show from at bwaySHO. Check her out on YouTube or obviously the Insta for all things Broadway news. She is, I'm going to just say it, the voice of the people. She's the people's voice. She is that relatable theater lover that also just happens to be a professional journalist that sharpened her axe at Friday Night Lights in Texas. Like, that's how this all went down. So again, thanks, Show. Check her out at bwaySHO. That's just SHO because it's her show and she runs it. All right. I'm Joe Roscoe with Built for the Stage. If you're watching, got this backdrop here. I run this street, Broadway. We have a special shirt for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. The Broadway run coming up this weekend. Going to be warming up our runners for the 10K and 5K. If you want a chance to win a shirt like this, you can try out our free trial at builtforthestage.com. Actors or athletes, train like one. Later.